in terms of water and sanitation. But what has come out from the meeting during G20, its memorandum is very important. So we want to promote and to facilitate a response calling to action. Accordingly, the Institute of Water and Sanitation has been working as an organization of civil society. One of the actions means we have now inaugurated an initiative called Forum on Water and Sanitation. It is unique with actors from the civil society, from the academia, from different parts, from companies, several actors, several Brazilian actors, not only in terms of sanitation, but connected to human rights, climate, cities, in order to debate how to progress. How can civil society progress and elaborate and present and rally the government to go forward on their agenda? So this forum has worked hard, providing in-person meetings, virtual meetings, permanent communication by means of bulletins, keeping up with the pace of all the matters that have to do both with the national dimension, but also connected to international issues. We have aimed at obtaining and bringing as a way to mobilizing the government any of the activities that Sanitation Forum has been worked upon, and the ministers' meeting that has happened this year too, and beyond the water systems. We want to call attention to what Brazilian is now living regarding sanitation. There has been a huge change regarding their sanitation act, and it results from the participation of private sector in the whole country in all these services. So there's a momentum going on. We are still reflecting a lot and trying to find the pros and cons of this participation. Furthermore, the forum also aims at working and mobilizing everything connected to this subject. Today, there has been the 5th edition of the World Day of Toilet Services, a Brazilian edition. This year, results have been very promising, very good, aimed with a campaign, a rally campaign, calling the attention of all the organizations and institutions, and also from companies of the sector, but mainly calling President Lula's attention to this regarding to the lack of toilets, and announcing the commitment in order to create a program to improve toilet access at a faster rate. Another important thing we have been working for next year, it has to do with climate change and sanitation. Also in Brazil, the systems are quite separate from one another. Brazil is producing several programs of adaptation with several sectorial plans, but we still do not have a sanitation plan. And we have to rally the civil society. And we have managed to open a window of opportunity. We have managed to do so together with the government of Brazil. So I think my time is almost up. This is all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that, Doctor. Now I'd like to turn to SWA's second strategic objective, championing multi-sectoral, multi-stakeholder approaches, starting with Ms. Now. The Global Accountability Report highlights that in Kenya, a multi-stakeholder group of partners consistently reviews both government and non-governmental commitments under the Mutual Accountability Mechanism. This is no small feat. From the private sector perspective, how has Sanergy's engagement with multi-stakeholder and mutual accountability processes been helping to move the needle on water and sanitation across Kenya? Over to you for 3 minutes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nancy. Beautiful name, as you said. So I'll just go right into it. So our engagement with multi-stakeholder and mutual accountability processes has been very instrumental in us advancing water and sanitation in Kenya, and especially in participating in platforms like the SWA MAM. We've been able to align the work that we are doing to national priorities and foster stronger partnership across the sector. So I want to move in and say that we as Sanergy are private sector, right? The mandate lies with the government. So our work is to complement the efforts of the government, but the mandate solely lies with the government. And so the process has to be government-led. And for an organization like us, Sanergy, what we've seen is three main gaps. So the first one is the lack of an enabling environment for sanitation to grow and thrive, and especially for access for those who do not have access to clean and safe sanitation. And what we've seen through accountability mechanisms like this is government saying this is what we're going to do to create an enabling environment. And I'll give an example of one huge win we've had in Kenya. This has been the launch of the NAWASIP framework, which is the National Water and Sanitation Investment Program that has shifted sanitation goals. We had 80% seaward connections, 20% non-seaward or on-site sanitation options planned for the year 2030 for us to achieve our sanitation goals. But the government has gone back and realized that this is not going to be possible. So they have revised these goals under this framework to now be 60% on-site sanitation and 40% seaward sanitation to enable us to fast track and meet our goals for 2030. Therefore, allowing organizations like Sanergy, Sanitation, and other organizations, even smaller organizations that are working in on-site sanitation, to now drive these sanitation goals forward. We've had a lot of regulations being developed by our national regulator, the Urban Sanitation Guidelines, reviewing of sanitation manuals, as a very strong commitment from government to ensure that there's an enabling environment. Something else that we've seen through this accountability mechanism is monitoring and reporting. So data. You don't know, you can't plan for where you're going if you don't know where you're from and where you currently are. So we've had a lot of fragmentation in terms of where does the data sit, but we've seen government really lead this process with private sector and other sector players to come up with a way that we can centralize this data, come up with systems that have real-time monitoring to ensure that we enhance sanitation development. One last thing is also strengthening sector coordination. As I said, sanitation is highly fragmented in Kenya institutionally, which of course has led to the breakdown of these services reaching especially the underserved. So we've seen a real initiative from the national government coming in to lead technical working groups working across different ministries, because we have our Ministry of Water, Ministry of Health, our Ministry of Environment, and they all have an aspect of sanitation. So seeing all of these national bodies really leading us in strengthening that coordination, and organizations like Fresh Life who represent private sector really seeing a guiding light, like lighthouses. Yes, so those are the three things that I can highlight. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you so much, Nancy. And to all of our panelists for really digging in to SWA's goals. I have to give the, unfortunately, Dr. Haruna won't be able to join us today through some logistical and technology hurdles. So I'd like to move the panel on to a last series of quick questions. And these will be in 1 minute rounds. And essentially what I would like to do to close out this discussion is that my final question goes to all panelists. I suspect the answer may be related to SWA's strategic objective number 3, strengthening system performance and attracting new investments. So I'm going to ask each panelist to name 1 or 2 challenges that keep you up at night when it comes to water and sanitation in your country. Can political will, multi-stakeholder approaches, and mutual accountability contribute to solving these problems? I'm going to start with my own answer first. As an external support agency, what keeps me up at night and also keeps my team busy during the day is how best to support our government partners close the financing and capacity gaps through partnerships. Solving these challenges absolutely requires multi-stakeholder approaches to leverage and accelerate beyond the status quo. Now I'm going to turn to each of you and ask you the same thing. Name one challenge, and I'm going to turn it over to each of you for approximately a minute. First of all, I'm going to go ahead and start with Elizabeth Ugo from Nigeria. Over to you, Elizabeth.
Thank you again, Nancy. Well, if you ask me, the first point that I would say that really cost me sleepless night, or what I'm also experiencing right now, is the low prioritization of WASH by some of our subnational governments. Even though we have some coming up, but I wish we had more. So we have some that are not prioritizing WASH, and this is definitely slowing down the pace at which we would have loved to move ahead in accelerating sustainable access to WASH services in the country. But I believe that that we can also address this using the multi-stakeholder approaches and through mobilizing the high-level political will at all levels by engaging the evidence-based advocacy. That, I believe, will also help us to solve this problem and ensuring citizens' engagement and accountability by duty bearers across all levels. And this will also help in addressing the challenge that we are facing. And we bear it in mind that with this, then we know that, as we know that water and sanitation is a right, and so we are hoping with this we'll be able to get over this problem. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Elizabeth. Now I'm going to turn over to Executive Director Watuli from Brazil. The floor is yours for a minute.
Bom,
Well,
acho que principal que tira uma questão bastante preocupante, acho,
the
no
question
Brasil
is
esse
rather
ano.
worrying in Brazil this
Tivemos
year.
dois
We have had
eventos climáticos
two
extremos
climate
muito
extreme
intensos,
climate events.
uma enchente fora no Rio Grande do Sul,
A
que foi
flood,
uma
an
seca em
unusual
boa parte do
flood in
território
Rio Grande
nacional.
do Sul.
Acho que a perspectiva da
The
repetição, principalmente
perspective
no
of its
evento de seca
repetition,
numa
particularly when
grande
there is a
área do
drought
Brasil,
in a huge area
muito
of
próximo,
Brazil,
ela é
the next
bastante
period
preocupante.
is quite worrying, and
Impacto direto, né,
the
no
direct
abastecimento,
impact in the
como a gente está vendo agora na
support.
Amazônia, com impacto principalmente
So
nas populações
the
isoladas.
impact on the populations that
Acho que,
have been isolated,
obviamente, os instrumentos,
obviously
né,
the instruments that we possess,
multiatores, enfim, eles são muito
multi-sectorial
importantes,
approach is very
mas ainda,
important.
infelizmente, no Brasil,
But
acho que no longo prazo
unfortunately,
estamos
in
longe de
Brazil,
conseguir
we are far
trazer
from
esses
reaching
instrumentos no curto prazo,
the
né? Acho que esse
use of these
principal
instruments
preocupação.
in the short run, particularly at public health level, unfortunately.
Thank you so much, Executive Director. I'm going to now turn to the Secretary from Nepal, Secretary Bamachara. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Nancy. Yes, so in case of Nepal, we have basic water supply up to 90% of people, and we have also sanitation facility reached up to 94.5%. However, we are getting only 19% of treated water to the consumers, and only 3% of wastewater has been treated. So these data makes us wake up at night, and it's our great challenge that we need to have our achieve our national goal as well as SDG. So in such cases, we need to have multi-stakeholder engagement, and this type of goal can be only achieved with a political commitment and a multi-stakeholder engagement, we believe. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Tina, next we're going to turn to Indonesia. Professor Priyadi, over to you.
Yeah. So I guess for me, what keeps me up at night is the sustainability of community-based and small-scale water and sanitation systems. We have hundreds and thousands of those in Indonesia. And I sincerely think that political will, multi-stakeholder approaches are key. They're best practices as to how large-scale regional water supply company, for example, can support maintenance and rehabilitation of surrounding small-scale water systems. So this is an example of multi-stakeholder approaches. And also, this is my personal belief, and with that, we will be rolling out a trial intervention program on performance benchmarking for small-scale rural water supply, because we believe that mutual accountability can enhance their performance. Yeah, over to you.
Thank you. I've had a chance to see some of your small-scale infrastructure, and I appreciate your thoughts on it, and why it would be a little bit stressful to keep you up at night. I'm going to turn to our final panelist for her perspectives. Over to Ms. Nell from Kenya.
Thank you. So what keeps us up at night? Very many things, but I will highlight the biggest one is inadequate financing for inclusive sanitation solutions. And this is especially for underserved areas that don't have this access to sanitation. And in Kenya, our sanitation funding gap is 7 billion USD. And just for the urban sanitation is 3.4 billion USD. And that is for us to achieve our 2030 goals, which is coming up very, very quickly. And one thing we've seen is that sanitation is lumped up with water. So there are no clear investments or plans for sanitation, even with it being a devolved function. Sorry, is someone else speaking?
Dr. Banachara, thank you.
Okay, there we go. So, yes, so quickly, in terms of how mutual accountability and political will can help, political will, as I said, is very fundamental for prioritizing sanitation. If it's a government-led process, it will work. If government believes in prioritizing sanitation as a key sector, it will work, and this can definitely lead to mobilizing more public and private sector investments to have more inclusive sanitation solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. We have similar worries that keep us up at night, as we do similar names. And I'd really like to thank this incredible panel of leaders from across the globe on sharing your thoughts. I know that we could have deep, rich conversations for many hours on this. I also know that you're all managing and leading your own organizations, and I want to be mindful of time. I hope that as we begin preparation for the process for the upcoming high-level meetings in 2025 and 2026, we will collectively think big and hold ourselves and each other accountable. Again, thank you so much to SWA for hosting this panel, and I'd like to hand it back over to Katerina.
Thank you so much, Nancy, for facilitating the discussion, also for sharing some of the work that USAID is doing, but also instigating all our panelists. And let me make an interesting comment, I think interesting comment, which is the fact that SDG Agenda 2030 only refers to 2 human rights. One, the rights to water and sanitation, the other one, gender equality. And we couldn't have had a better panel to celebrate gender equality than what we had today, which was a fully female panel. We have nothing against, we don't have no intentions of discriminating against men, of course, but I think that a bit of positive discrimination for women, I think, is well deserved after so many thousands of years of discrimination against us. I do hope that for the next webinar, there will be less people complaining of sleepless nights. I hope that there will be more achievements and more progress in terms of the new commitments that will be tabled and the progress that will be made to achieve them. And I agree with you, Nancy, that the 2025 high-level meetings, but also the UN conference in 2026, will be important milestones that will help to galvanize political will at country level and hopefully foster, encourage the tabling of new commitments by governments and the submission of those commitments and the mutual accountability mechanism. I had one more thing to say, but I think I forgot what it was. Thanks everyone for having joined. It was a pleasure. Bravo again to you, Mariana, for the great work that you did, and also to all our partners that contributed to the report with the examples of what they are doing well, what could be better, and we are looking forward to continuing this great adventure of transforming accountability into action. Thank you so much, everyone, and let's please continue the conversations at the national, at the regional, at the local level. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, and bye.
Thank you, Katerina.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.